Welcome back to the UMass DAX Introduction to R video series. R Markdown is a way to write well-documented reports, data analysis workflows, presentations, and other public-facing data-based media that link together text, visualizations, and data analysis syntax. For those of you familiar with Jupyter Notebooks, R Markdown will seem very familiar. R Markdown allows you to integrate extensive documentation and notes alongside your R code, so that it is easy to understand for people who need to replicate your code or understand what you did. The best way to understand R Markdown is just to dive in, so let's get started. You can open a new R Markdown document with the menu. Pause the video and try opening your own R Markdown document. Let's take a look at the key parts of an R Markdown document. First is the YAML header, which identifies critical document metadata. YAML, ironically, stands for YAML Ain't Markup Language, not what most people would guess. In the YAML header, you will want to enter your name enclosed in quotes. You can also enter the date of your work, including the system date. You will also specify what type of document you would like to output. The default is an HTML document that can be viewed on the web, but you can also output Word documents, PDFs if you install a version of LaTeX, presentations, and web applications in Shiny. You can also set options for the document format. Two popular options for 601 students are including a floating table of contents and folding code. Be sure you don't accidentally introduce spaces or punctuations to the YAML header that isn't supposed to be there, as that is a common cause of error messages. Pause the video and set up your YAML header. The next major element of R Markdown documents are code chunks. The first chunk is the setup chunk. We generally include a setup chunk to include overall options for the document, to load libraries, to source syntax files on which the current code depends, and to set document-level parameters, such as whether or not to return warning messages. All subsequent code chunks can be entered in the same way. You must include this symbol and then the language to be used in brackets. We must indicate that a code chunk will be interpreted in R because other languages can be used in the code chunks, such as Python or Bash. You can also add chunk-level options, such as error equals true if you want the chunk to execute even if it runs into an error, or cache equals true to cache the results of a chunk that is time-consuming to run, such as data importing, and avoid rerunning unless something in the chunk has changed. There are even sophisticated options to set the width of a graph or to caption an image. Any text that is not inside of a code chunk is simply treated as text and is formatted based on the simple Markdown language. It is very important for you to comment on each code chunk so that future you and others who read your code know what it means. Some of you may already be familiar with Markdown. Markdown is an easy document formatting language that allows you to easily create page breaks, section breaks, page and section titles and headers, and format text in bold and italics. The pound signs are equal to header 1 and header 2. You can also embed links. This double asterisk here makes something bold. The easiest way to learn some Markdown and R Markdown basics is to check out the cheat sheets described in the earlier video, or check out the R Markdown cookbook or standard Markdown reference. Note that any syntax that needs to be run in R or some other language must appear inside a code chunk. Nothing will happen if you don't put the code in a code chunk. Pause this video and write a clear header, a description for what your code does, and a small amount of code in a code chunk. To turn an R Markdown file into a document that you can share, we are going to use a package called knitr. The knitr package may need to be downloaded and installed. See our previous video on libraries if you need help. You can knit a Markdown file by clicking on the Knit button in RStudio. That concludes the lesson for this video. Be sure to pause here and make sure that you can complete this checklist. If you have any trouble, please reach out to the DAX Tutoring Ambassadors. We'll see you in the next video.